I call to order the September 7th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting. Please join me in the flag pledge. Ms. Morrow, will you please call the roll of members?
Lilihai, Marovich,
Here.
Swenson, Gannison.
All right, agenda item number 3, approval of the August 3rd, 2023 Planning Commission meeting minutes. Fellow commissioners, any changes? Okay, then they will stand. Director, any announcements tonight?
Good evening, Madam Chair and Planning Commission members. Just one announcement. We will have a work session here in the council chambers immediately following the conclusion of the regular meeting. We'll take about a 5-minute break to transition between the regular meeting and the work session, but we will stay here in the council chambers. That concludes my announcements.
All right, agenda item number 5, Cordelia 2nd edition. This is a public hearing to consider the application of Pulte Homes for a vacation of public drainage and utility easement located south of 179th Street and east of Glacier Way. And this is a public hearing, so anyone wishing to speak, please make sure you print your name and address on the appropriate agenda item on the sheet in the back. And we have David via Teams.
That is correct, yeah.
All right.
David, go ahead and introduce the item, please.
I'm David Von Rudenham from Pulte Homes. We're looking to vacate the easements that are currently over the second edition of Cordelia. The city has asked us to do this, so when we replat the second edition, put all new easements over it, and it won't be as messy.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and I will present for Ms. Jensen. This is really very straightforward. This is in conjunction with the second edition final plat. The second edition is the final phase of the Cordelia development. And the reason for the easement vacation basically stems from, with the first edition, there was a permanent drainage and utility easement that was placed over one of the common area lots and an outlot that conveyed stormwater drainage to the pond just to the east that you can see on the overhead there. That's a pond that was created with the Crossroads development. With the second edition, they being the developer, had to make some minor modifications, change slightly the location of that stormwater drainage conveyance. So because the easements were conveyed permanently as part of the first edition plat, we need to vacate them all, and then we'll reestablish them with the second edition plat, which will go to the city council later this month. They'll just be in a slightly different location, but it will serve the same purpose. So, and staff recommends approval, and I can stand for any questions.
Thank you. And this is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
seeing no one come forward, I move to close the public hearing.
All right, a motion and a second. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The public hearing is now closed. Fellow commissioners, any comments? Yes.
Sorry for that, the microphone was off. Fairly routine exercise here. Obviously, from time to time, minor modifications occur to the plat. This is just some housekeeping to make that happen. Appreciate the condition that ties this to the actual approval of the final plat for the next piece coming forward. So there's some reassurances that the needed easement will be there when we need it. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'll offer a motion.
All right.
I move to recommend approval of the vacation of the public drainage and utility easements in the conjunction with the Cordelia Second Edition final plat as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Ms. Morrow, will you please take a roll call vote?
Lilihi,
Aye.
Marovich,
Aye.
Swenson,
Aye.
Gannison,
All right, thank you. And Director, when will this one go in the front of City Council?
We're anticipating that it'll go with the final plat for the second edition at their September 18th meeting.
All right.
Madam Chair, before we move on to the next agenda item, can we have the door closed so that we don't get the feedback?
Thank you. Yes. All right. Thank you, David. Good luck on your project moving forward. Agenda item number 6, Hometown Church. This is a public hearing to consider the application of James Lathrop on behalf of Hometown Church for an amendment to conditional use permit number 89-07 to allow the construction of a detached recreational accessory building for Hometown Church located at 16165 Kenwood Trail. And here to speak on that is James.
Thank you for considering this. It's a pavilion, 30 by 60, that we would like to construct. Looking forward to any questions that you have about it. But with that, I'll turn it over to Frank. I think he's got the drawings and such.
Thank you.
Evening, Planning Commissioner, Madam Chair. This evening's request by Hometown Church, located at 16165 Kenwood Trail, is to construct a 30 by 60 outdoor recreation, like a park picnic pavilion sort of structure. It's an open-sided building on a concrete foundation. The property is located in the northwest corner of Kenwood Trail, which is County Road 5 and Klamath Trail, County Road 46 being west of that intersection. The building has been on at this location on the property, I believe, since the 1950s, perhaps, and then expanded over time. The last major construction project here was an expansion of the church and an expansion of the parking lot in this area here. The property is surrounded by large lot single-family homes to the west and the north, and then also the YMCA Camp Streetland to the south, and other single-family homes in that vicinity. This is an aerial photo from, I believe, this past spring. The church had access from a driveway at this location here from County Road 5, Kenwood Trail. And when the parking lot was expanded in 1995, 96, that period, the church wanted to keep that open. The County Road 5 had been expanded at that time. They wanted to have that access driveway at that location, but as traffic has increased, I believe the church determined that removing that was likely a safer access location for vehicles coming and going from the church, and it also opened up the opportunity for additional modifications to the site for more outdoor area for the church. And so if you're out there, you probably recently noticed that there was a sport court that was placed in this vicinity here, surface court for pickleball or basketball. And then the proposal here is to construct a 30 by 60 pavilion building on this open space here. The trees that are on this area here that are on the church property will not be disturbed, is my understanding. The modification to the site plan included the removal of some parking spaces, but the church still does meet the minimum parking requirements between the parking lot in this area and then north of the church. And I left it in this configuration. I was hoping to have north pointed up, but due to the layout and the size, it's best to just leave it in this configuration. So north is to the left here. And this is the church building, which would be off this page here. This is the parking lot, north end of the parking lot. And the pavilion building will be located in this kind of a bump out open space area here. There's a playground to be located here adjacent to the sidewalk. And then the sport court is in place right here. It's about 30, 35 feet from the street. There's also from the parking lot, a sidewalk that runs along here east of the sport court, and then that provides access to the cemetery, which is located just north of this property. This is the foundation layout. You can see the posts and et cetera, and the dimensions of the building, and kind of gives a side view. These are structural plans, but that's the detail that's provided. And so what staff has drafted in the planning report is a recommendation of 2 stipulations, and there's also findings of fact for the Planning Commission to consider. And so I'll stand for any questions, as well as the applicant is here as well.
Thank you. And this is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item can come forward.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
seeing again no one come forward, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor of closing the public hearing signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The public hearing is now closed. Fellow commissioners.
I'll take a shot at this
Go
one.
for it.
I'll call myself a neighbor to the hometown church. I want to recognize them first and foremost for participating in our democratic process. They are the election area for Precinct 5. As I do walks around that area and runs, it's certainly nice to see your continued development. I really appreciate I know it was probably tough to give up that access to the parking lot, but the right thing to do with regard to drivability and the safety of your parishioners. Seeing what would have been perhaps a parishioner house come down years ago and probably pave the way for this change, something that was used for gatherings for youth from time to time. It's really fun to see your continued investment. We've come to festivals in your parking lot, and now look forward to seeing you in that same way. And perhaps if the weather would call for it, be under that pavilion. Certainly seems like a good investment. Seems like you're continuing to use the property in a way that continues to invest in the community and develop your church.
So one thing that I noticed as I was reviewing the plan, and I don't feel strongly enough about it to say that it should be a stipulation or a change or anything to what we're talking about here today, recognizing mainly we're focused on the pavilion structure. Just kind of noticed the location of the sport court is fairly close to County Road 40 or County Road 5, get the right county road over there. I think we measured the distance between roughly 35 feet is what I'll go with as a rough number. Kind of compared that to some other parks, other situations and things. It is a little tighter than most of our parks in those types of facilities typically are. So just a suggestion is maybe consider extending that fence that runs along that retaining wall, just as an additional little bit of a barrier between your sport facility and the county road. I just friendly suggestion, that's all it is.
Owned by Trinity Evangelical Free Church. They kept that when we bought the building from them. And I just met with their operations person today talking about that exact thing, getting their okay for us to extend that fence. So it's in the works.
Excellent.
Yep.
Appreciate your feedback on that. Thank you. That's all I have.
And I believe you are also the church that opened the building for Camp Streeflin this summer. So I really appreciate that. My son went to Camp Streeflin, so it was great that they had a place to go during air quality. So thank you so much for doing that. I think we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I'd like to offer this motion. I move to recommend approval for Hometown Church of an amendment to conditional use permit number 89-07, subject to the 2 stipulations listed in the September 1, 2023 planning report and approval of the findings of fact dated September 7, 2023.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Ms. Morrow, will you please take a roll call vote?
Marovich,
Aye.
Swenson,
Aye.
Dennison,
Aye.
Lillyhi.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, James, so much.
Cheers.
Oh, Director Maury, when will this go in front of City Council?
September 18th.
All right, thank you. All right, and with that, the meeting is adjourned.